Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my weekly Node-RED live stream. Here for an hour or so of some Node-RED core development, building up to the Node-RED 3.0 release in the next month or so. Yeah, that's what we're working on. That's what we're up to tonight. Working towards 3.0. We're kind of at that point where we're going to want to put a lid on new features going in. So we've got quite a backlog of pull requests and some bugs still to fix. And there are a couple more feature requests that we want to make a start on and get in. One of which I want to look at tonight because it's going to be a bit different. So that's where we're at. So yeah, for the eagle-eyed, you can see SSO Auto-login, which was a hastily picked title, but this relates to a feature in the backlog where at the moment, if you have admin auth set up to use a third-party authentication provider, so say you want to sign in, the example here user suggests, let's do it so you can see what I'm seeing. Yeah, so the issue here, if you've got admin auth set to log in using some third-party tool like Keycloak, Okta, or we provide example GitHub authentication plugins, for example. At the moment, the user experience is, and I'll show you this in a sec, is, in fact, why don't I show you it now? And this is where we're going to do things a little different tonight. What we're actually going to do is, if I get the right window open, is because this is dealing with single sign-on, we want to have a Node-RED instance that's set up to do single sign-on. And unashamedly, that's something we want in FlowForge, or something we make use of in FlowForge. So I can make use of FlowForge just to demonstrate the scenario. And I'm hoping, with a bit of fiddling, we'll be able to actually develop and get this working in the context of FlowForge, but it's all good. So yeah, I only decided to do this moments before the live stream, so let's I don't want you guys to worry too much on the FlowForge side. This isn't about FlowForge. I'm just making use of FlowForge to help me, to give me a test environment where we're doing single sign-on. So for those who haven't seen it, this is FlowForge at the moment. As you can see, I have lots of Node-RED instances, only 2 of which are currently running. To be honest, it's pretty irrelevant which one I use for the moment. I'm just going to pick this one, Node-RED 2.1.1. So here I have a link to the editor, so I click that and it takes me to Node-RED, and here we go. This is the screen we're working on. At the moment, because it's set up to do single sign-on, it prompts you with this login dialog with a button saying sign in, and I have to click that button, and you may or may not have, you probably wouldn't have noticed, it did a very quick redirect back to FlowForge, verified I was logged in, brought me back to the editor saying, yep, they're logged in. And now you can see it knows it's me because that's me on the FlowForge platform. So that's all working. And if I do log out there, then again, it brings me back to the sign in page and I can sign in again. So the issue that was raised, nothing to do with FlowForge, but this is actually something we would benefit from in FlowForge, so which is why I'm going to work on it, is it would be nice, and in terms of a user experience, if I log out, when someone opens up the editor, technically there's no reason why we have to present a dialog with a sign-in button. We could automatically do the redirects to do that sign-in flow and drop you into the editor as long as you are logged in. So that's what we want to happen. So before we start playing with that, what I need to be able to do is have this instance of Node-RED, which at the moment you can see is, it says 222 Git. That's curious. Let me just check something. Logs 222 Git. Okay. This might just work. I was expecting to have to do something slightly different here. Let's just try this out. If I come into so here I have Atom with my Node-RED source code. If I come in here and switch my brain on and just think, if we go into the editor client and say red.js, so this is our main entry point, I'm just going to hit console.log running dev code. So that's good, and in the background I'm going to be running grunt dev, so we're automatically rebuilding the code in the background, which we need. And although this is going to run it as usual on port 1880 with my default settings file, we're going to ignore that instance of Node-RED, so once it's running, because that's not the one set up with admin auth. The key thing is, though, what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to say actions restart. That's restarting this instance of Node-RED. So now when I fire up the editor, and if I have the console open, if I do a hard reload and then do a sign in, it's not done it. I thought that was going to do enough. The fact it's reporting 222 Git makes me question where it's picking up this. Where's it picking up the Node-RED code? And I thought maybe I was, in fact, curiously, it's not 222 Git when I run locally. Okay, so we're going to have to spend 5 minutes getting FlowForge set up to be running my development copy of Node-RED, not the pre-installed version. Again, this is braving new territory for me. What we can do, we're inside. I'm not going to belabor what exactly I'm doing here, because to be frank, this isn't Node-RED. This is FlowForge. This live stream is meant to be about Node-RED. I'm just taking advantage of FlowForge to develop on a Node-RED feature. So I'm going to call this version 999, and then I just remind myself what a version directory should look like. So we want a node modules directory that has all the Node-RED source code in it and all its dependencies. And all its dependencies. That it might be tricky. That might be tricky. Yeah, I'm close to actually saying this is more trouble than it's worth. Or am I? Actually, you might be able to cheat, because if we copy over the 222 install, which is a full-blown install of Node-RED, go into Node Modules, then go into at Node-RED. So there we have all of the npm installed modules from version 222. We can cheat, I think, at this point. And if we rm the Node-RED scope, and then we create a soft link from where we are to, I'm just going to Node-RED, packages, node modules at Node-RED here. We should now have a symlink from there to the right. Yeah. And then if I do the same with the node-red directory, if this works, okay. So in theory now I've got in my FlowForge stacks, I've got version 999, which we're going to use as shortcode for, that's all set up with symlinks to my dev environment. And just to help reinforce this, if I come in here and edit red.js, I'm just going to add a console.log starting dev copy, just to make it super obvious in the logs. Right. So now what I can do is, and this is, for those of you who have played with FlowForge, this is new. This is something that's coming in the next version. But I can create a new stack, say 512 megabytes, give it the version 999, which is the name of the directory I'd created. Then, if I come back to my project and say, here's, in fact, rather than muck around with those, I'm going to create a new project. And for stack, give it node-red dev, hit create project. Now look at the logs. Oh no, it's crashing. Look, restart loop. It hasn't worked. I thought I was being sneaky. At some point I'm going to say, okay, this experiment has failed and you guys don't want to watch me debug this when this isn't node-red stuff, but yeah, unfortunately there's no, whatever it's crashing for, it's not generating any meaningful error messages. Okay, what can we do? How can I, what can I do to what can I do to make this work, or what's the quickest way for me to get this up and running without you guys just watching me debug stuff you're not here to watch me debug? I guess one quick test would be, does this work? No. Okay, bear with me, chaps, for okay, how are these? Oh, man. Because if I run, see if I run node-red there, oh, it works, and then okay, it bulks because it's already running, and that's to be expected. I think if I can get, if I can just figure out what's wrong with this node-red command here, it's not a symlink. I no. No. My brain isn't quite working. There is going to be something I'm missing and a neat trick to get this working, but it's just not happening for me right now. Okay. Darn. Right. And after last week's unsuccessful, inconclusive live stream, I don't want to go for a repeat. So I'm going to pull the plug on this stream. Or not this whole stream. I'm going to pull the plug on this activity. I think it would have been super cool to get this working. And it's something I need to work on for sure. This feature is definitely something we want in. So not having a test environment for it, though, is one bit that's going to prove a bit too tricky. Let me think. There's probably one alternative. If we can manually run it rather than run it inside FlowForge. We can manually run it, but we can only do that with the right environment set up. No, I take that back. No, there's not a quick fix, and it will get very boring for you guys. Okay, going to park that. Let's go find an issue. Oh, you see, Noxy Boy? Yeah, it is kind of it is interesting. I mean, it's interesting to me. And it's, if I make this bigger so maybe you guys can see a bit more of what I'm doing here. I mean, it's fascinating. It's kind of a lesson in how Node and NPM sets things up. So here you can see, right. So here we're in the 222, and this is a properly installed production version of Node-RED 222, npm installed. So it's gone into the node modules.bin directory, and you can see all of these, of all of the npm modules that have been installed, these are all of the executables that have been declared by all those npm modules, such as Node-RED. And sure enough, you can see it has been created as a symlink, from called Node-RED in the bin directory to where that actual executable is. So from here you can see it goes up one into the Node-RED module, and then it's red.js. If from here I try and navigate directly, if I get the paths right. So now I'm in this dev copy. And if I do ls-la, you can see none of these are symlinks anymore. And that's because I suspect that's because I've done the copy. In fact, this guy's that guy's a symlink, but that's the one I made. But it doesn't work. So if that doesn't work, let's try changing that to be Node-RED. Let's copy it to be the exact same thing. So Node-RED/red.js. So now when I try running that, oh, no, it ran. Yes. So that's running. It's failed because it's running a default config, and I already have it listing on port 1880. Oh, we're in business. So I think Okay, let's not get away with it. So at the moment, well, yes, at the moment you can see we're in crash state because it's failed to start. So now we're going to hit start. And it's running. Look, starting dev copy. Success. Oh, there we are. So a little perseverance and we got there. And if we open up the editor, oops, running dev code. Yes, right. So we now have the wherewithal to run our dev code inside FlowForge with, and crucially, the whole reason we're doing this, we're running it so we have the single sign-on prompt pop up. Nice. Okay, I'm going to close that window, leave that. Awesome. Right, so let's go back to the issue. Let's go back to the issue. The one weird trick you missed, the ball geek. I had to symlink the right thing, basically. Yeah, I'm not. I won't pull it back up. You can watch it on YouTube when I get the video up. I realize I'm a week behind, but yeah, I created the symlink to the wrong bit of the Node module, and yeah, fix that, and now it's working. So what we want is for Node-RED to know to automatically sign you in. Well, first we're just going to brute force it a bit. I'm going to get rid of that dev copy because, well, we know we're in the dev copy now because that's working. And we'll get rid of running dev code there because we know that's working. Oh, see, now this is where my fingers, my fingers are getting too used to VS Code for good reasons. So I should move over to VS Code wholesale for the Node-RED stuff at some point. But yeah, my fingers are now much more trained for VS Code than they are Atom. It's only taken a couple of weeks. So we want single sign-on. So we're going to editor client, source, JS, and user. This is where we handle all the user authentication. So what do we do? So when we load the Node-RED editor, you can see we get in the console, we try and do a get on the settings file, and we get a 4.0 unauthorized. It's that error which tells the code, you need to authenticate. So what it then does is it comes in and says, well, it sets up the user menu because it now knows this is a system with admin auth enabled. And then somewhere along the line, I forget where exactly, it will come to this call to log in. So this login is what generates the dialog. This dialog you can see here. And it builds it up, but first it does a request to the admin API to get the login details. What type of login are we? Are we username and password, or are we OAuth? So here you can see if data type is credentials, it does stuff to show username and password. So I'm just going to collapse that down because we don't care. What we care about is if the admin auth type is strategy, which is basically this is a single sign-on OAuth, OpenID, whatever it might be, session. So it comes through, and in fact, why don't I console.log data so we can see what it actually gives us. And this is a good test. So down here, it's rebuilt the editor. Now, if I reload, yeah, okay, we've reloaded, but it's not. Why has it not picked up that change? I think because this grunt dev task isn't doing a full rebuild. I think I need to. I think I need to run It's the minify. The problem would be we're running the minified code in the production platform because it thinks it's a production build. Whereas when you run dev local, it's running the non-minified version, just because minifying takes time. So what, yeah, it's the uglify step. So what do we do about that? Well, we come down here and we look for build, uglify build. So in fact, temporarily, I'm just going to add uglify build to our build dev task. So grunt dev will run the minification. It takes about 10 seconds, so it's why we don't run it normally when we're in dev mode. We want that faster turnaround, but without more faff, we're not going to worry about that. So now when I reload, I should, yes. So here you can see, maybe you can see, I can see it. So we get type of strategy and prompts, an array of 1. The prompts being a button with the URL that should redirect to if you click that button. So let's just go and have a look at correlate with that with the code. So here we iterate over those prompts somewhere in here. In fact, for this mode, well, it's kind of, it supports multiple fields, whereas in fact the code assumes there's only going to be one, and it gives you a login button that if you click, it just sets the document location to the field URL. As in, that button, all it does when you click that button is it sets the document location to this URL. So what we could do here is say data type strategy, if data.auto-login equals, well, if auto-login, then we can just do document.location equals, and I'm shortcutting a lot here, but prompts 0.url. And in fact, I think that is all we care to do. I think we can return, because we don't even need to show. Yeah, it's the humming is probably on my side. Yes, I will. Yeah, there is humming in the background in the room, and there's very little I can do about it, and I will. It will be over soon. So yeah, we're going to pass. I hope it's not too distracting, but yeah, it's the hot water's running. We're going to set it up to pass an auto-login set to true. If it sets to true, then we're going to redirect instantly, and it's a bit redundant to do a return because as soon as you set document location, it's going to reload the page. So this is what we're going to go with. Yeah, I can already see ways this is going to break, but let's get the golden path going first. So what we're going to do is come into editor API. So this is the runtime side. Auth. Ooh. Yeah, I need to. Let's just remind ourselves. So it's auth/login is the root. Auth/strategy. Auth. Okay, auth/login is not in this file. So here's auth/login. Oh, and auth/login is handled by auth.login, which must be back in here. Yeah. So here's where it builds up that HTTP object. Yeah, all this good stuff. And we're just going to hard code in for the moment, auto login true. Okay. So with that auto login added, now as that's a runtime change, this instance of Node-RED needs to be restarted in order to pick up that change. So I should... is this the right instance? Yeah, Node-RED dev. Hit restart. Yeah, so that's restarted. Now, if I reload this page, what we expect to see is it's going to be very quick if it works, but it will load this page. You shouldn't see this dialog. It should redirect us straight to FlowForge and bounce us straight back here, and we should just be logged in. So let's hit reload, and it's not worked. Okay, but you can see auto login true. Why hasn't that worked then? You can see auto login true there. You know what, I'm going to rerun. I know I added that dev task, the uglify task to grunt dev. I suspect I needed to add, there's probably a copy task as well I overlooked. I think I did half a job of that one. Let's have a look. Node-RED dev, build, set dev, concurrent dev, build dev, uglify. I don't know. But by rerunning the build here, I'm hopeful now we reload and it's logged us straight in. That's awesome. So now if I hit log out, it logs us straight back in, because I've logged out of the editor, it's taken us back to the login page, the login page says, oh, auto login, and it's logged us straight back in. So we can see this in action a bit more if I actually log out of FlowForge and then log out of Node-RED. It's taken me to the login page for FlowForge. So I log into FlowForge, and then it takes me back to the editor and I'm logged in. So that's working. There are a couple things to consider here. If I sign out there and I log out here, so again it takes me to this page. If I try logging in with duff details, obviously it's not going to let me in. So that does get me in okay. What I'm thinking is there's this definite oddity, the fact we have this logout button when you want to be auto logged in. Logging out here just invalidates your local Node-RED token. It doesn't invalidate the fact, it doesn't log me out of FlowForge. So there is another issue. It's either an issue or pull request, because someone has actually contributed something around this to do with here we are. So another way of using admin auth without not using single sign-on is being able to pass in a token directly and have admin auth authenticate that token. And yeah, and I think okay, I'm not going to bring this aspect into it because it complicates matters, but the point being, I just, before this merges, need to think carefully about how that interrelates to some other requirements. But yeah, the basic requirement to auto log in, we've proved we can get working. So now we need to not hard code it, and we need to do. So where did I hard code it? Here I hard coded it. So what we're going to come up with is we're going to change it so that the admin auth can have that this behavior can be turned on via your admin auth setup. So this is all good. What we'll say is if merged admin auth dot auto okay, we're now on to naming. Login redirect. Is that what we want to call it? No. Maybe auto login was good enough. So if it's set to auto login, we're going to set response to auto login as true, and we're going to set. See, in some ways we don't need to use this prompts way of doing it. We'll only use prompts if the user hasn't. I'm noticeably more tentative with the keyboard as I'm careful not to typo the wrong shortcut. But so if this new property is set, then we'll set auto login to true and set login redirect to that. Else we'll send the prompts as before. In fact, we can bypass these two prompts because that's all to do with the images that get served up on the login screen. Okay, and then back in the login, we're going to change the logic here. So we're saying if auto login is true, then we can expect there to be a property called login redirect. Cool. Cool. Right. So now we need to test that. Now to test that, we need to go and make another tweak to FlowForge code, because what we're now saying is effectively the admin auth settings are now different for Node-RED running in FlowForge. We need to set this additional property. So a quick diversion back into FlowForge. We go into the launcher, runtime settings. Here's how we set up. We template the Node-RED settings file. Somewhere in here is admin auth. And in fact, yeah, we hand that off to another module. So it's not nr launcher we want. It is nr auth. So we come in here. Here we go, strategy. And we don't need a label now. And we can say auto login true, I think. think that is correct. Yeah, I think that is correct. So if we whiz back here, in fact, using new admin auth. Yeah, I'm sticking that console.login just, I'm 90% sure I've got it set up correctly to pick up dev code. So if we come in here, in order to reload that file, it should just be enough to restart Node-RED. Let's try. Restart, look in the logs. Yes, using new admin auth. Awesome. Then let's just close these old instances. So now when I open up the editor, oh, it's not done it. Okay. It hasn't done it. So although it says it's using new admin auth, something tells me I've not put the setting in the right place. Well, so Steve says, is the label required? I'm going to put it back in, but with the code we've made, it's impossible for that dialog to be seen at the moment. Is auto-login even the right? So now I'm switching between, yeah, auto-login. What's this merged admin auth? Is that? Yeah, no, that's goodness. Auto-login there. Oh, is it? Yeah, okay. Strategy. I needed to be one level. Yeah, I was looking in the wrong place on the settings object. So now it's under strategy, which matches where I'm putting it. Now, I think I should restart Node-RED. I know it appears slow to start. The current code just polls for new logs every like 3 seconds, so that's why they sort of come through a bit jittery. But ooh, well, it's a blank screen, and there are some errors. Can't read properties of undefined, reading 0. Okay, so my ploy to get rid of the prompts isn't working for some reason. Do I still console? No. Let's console.log data just to see what I'm getting. It's pretty clear to me something's going awry. Again, restart Node-RED. Give this a bit more room. Oh no, still no. No. Again, same old chestnut. Rerun grunt dev to rebuild the code. In fact, I'll warrant I can get rid of that console. I bet I just forgot to rebuild. So we're just waiting for this uglify task there. That's finished. Run SAS build. That's finished. That's all done. That's done. That's done. Can I just reload? Yeah, that worked. Cool. log out, and it keeps me logged in. Nice. Well, that's working. Simple enough. What else do we want? So that, in terms of the original, no, that is not the original feature request I was looking at. So this one, bypassing the sign-in pop-up when user has a valid single sign-on session. So the expected behavior for this was when the editor user has a valid token issued, the sign dialog should not appear and the editor user should go directly to the admin dashboard. So, yeah. So that's all good. So there is a question which, in fact, Sam here had raised. Where does it take you when you log out of Node-RED? So with what we've done, you can't be logged out of Node-RED. Or at least it will always try and log you back in. As it stands, there's no way at this point, if I sign out, now this will keep me logged in, even though I've signed out of FlowForge, which is an interesting question. I'm not sure how we would fix that. But if I say log out here, it takes me to the FlowForge login. Then, as it stands, there is no way here for me to fail the login. There's some, you can see briefly, it shows my dashboard and alarmingly says you don't have any projects. That's because it knows it's logging me in to redirect me back to a Node-RED instance. So it hasn't done the load to show my dashboard fully. So yeah, there's a FlowForge issue here generally about smoothing that out a bit, and indeed having run the generic FlowForge login have a bit more of a info as to what you're logging into. But that's FlowForge stuff. That's not for us tonight. What is for us tonight is thinking about this user menu, and particularly this logout option. In some ways it doesn't make sense because the logout, there are two options. One is we decide it doesn't make sense to have the logout button, as in we at FlowForge might decide it doesn't make sense for our users to have a logout button. So we would look to Node-RED to provide a way for us to hide that logout button. And I have to be open here. I've got two hats on, Node-RED hat, FlowForge hat, and we've got to be clear there is a distinction. And yes, there's what we would like to happen in the context of FlowForge, but I also recognise that's not what happens for other people in the way they run Node-RED. So that's why I say, regardless of, there is the question of what would we like in the FlowForge user experience to have on this user menu, and then decide what does that mean in terms of customizations that you can set via admin auth or however in your settings file in order to present different things. So, for example, does it make sense to have a logout button? It probably does, actually, because as I've shown with the existing setup, if I'm signed out of FlowForge, I am still logged in. That doesn't invalidate my existing session with this local Node-RED instance. There's there's an issue to raise on that. I'm just going to make a note for tomorrow. Log out of Node-RED sessions when logging out of FlowForge. But that's not a live stream issue. That's a FlowForge bug for the day, for daylight hours. And we've got a bunch of thoughts in terms of what we want. In fact, this is the thing with FlowForge. We're developing it in the open, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that I have. There is absolutely no issues with me sharing. Part of me needs to think through. Grind. Come on, Figma. Yeah, so here we are, literally, post-it notes on a virtual instance of Node-RED saying, right, what sort of customizations would we like? And again, feeding very much directly into what do we want to do in the context of FlowForge, and what do we want to do in the context of, or what do we want Node-RED to be able to allow us to do? Somewhere in here, in fact, over here, I started saying, well, we want to replace this logo with the FlowForge logo, where in fact, bypass the need for this viewer tool by implementing 3467, which is exactly what we've done tonight. So we've sort of solved that view. And then over here is collecting ideas. And there is an idea here, having a link back to the FlowForge dashboard, all this sort of stuff. Again, very FlowForge specific stuff that I'm not going to be live streaming on the Node-RED live stream over. Yeah. Oh yeah, so this is Figma, which is super cool. Both sort of design tool and whiteboarding tool. Where you can, good for remote teams, for when you need a whiteboard to coalesce around. Good for doing UI mock-ups like grind. Mock-ups of the new FlowForge website, which went live earlier today, for example, where you can have teams commenting, and it's a neat tool. It's not it's free for some amount of usage, not very expensive for more, and I quite like it. They have a desktop app, which I assume is just like Electron wrapping a web page, because it's identical to their web page, but it's handy having it in its own container. But I digress. We've sort of strayed from a Node-RED live stream. So where are we at? There's a question over this logout button. There is a question over, do we provide settings that let you change that? I think there was some conversation around being able to provide a custom URL to go to when you log out. Let's just have a quick look. What does that logout flow do? What's trying to say? Is it possible to revoke a session token using the runtime API? Yes, because that's what a logout does, which we're just about to look at. I think, unless I'm not got this straight. Or you do a post /auth/revoke with the token, and that is what a logout is. Which we will see here. So here's the login function we've been mucking around in. Here's logout. So we get the current access token, and we do a post to auth revoke. And here we go. So the response from a post to auth revoke can include a redirect. And if that's set, then we will redirect the page to that URL. Otherwise we reload. Haha. So at some point in the past, we have added the ability for the user to provide a URL that the user should be redirected to when they log out. Let's see that in action, or at least work out. So here we have revoke, and here we have the secret. They need to go to logout, editor theme, logout, redirect. Okay, so let us quickly just go find Flowforge code again. Sorry, because I'm switching desktops, I lose track of what you guys can see on the stream. But so where am I? It certainly helps doing Flowforge and VS Code and Node-RED and Atom does help anchor me when I stare at a text editor and think, what am I looking at? Even if I have got the Atom theme to give me some consistency. So if we go to the Flowforge launcher where we were and go to runtime settings, here we have editor theme, and then what did we say? It was logout redirect. So we're just going to redirect to google.com. Why not? Okay, now because we've edited this file, I need to yes, I straddle the fence between VS Code and Atom, depending what I'm working on. But yeah, I'm gradually moving in one direction. We need to, because we've edited the launcher, we need to do something that you guys can't do with the current version of Flowforge, which is suspend it. Now start it, and that's done a full restart of the Node-RED wrapper. Oh, have I missed? Did I typo it? Oh no, .com. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. No, we're good. Logout redirect. It is logout.redirect we wanted, wasn't it? Logout redirect. Yeah. Okay, so that's restarted Node-RED. I'm going to close those open ones. Open up the editor. Takes me straight in. Now, if I hit logout, it's taken me to Google, which is what we asked for. If I go back to the editor, okay, it's taken me straight back in, but it's taking me straight back in because it's bumped, because I'm still logged into Flowforge, if that makes sense. So whilst I've invalidated my session, if I come in here and also log out of Flowforge, now when I hit back, it takes me to Flowforge, get me to log in. I don't know. Yeah, dark themes and standing desks. The two things that so many developers seem to swear by, but I've just never got on with. There we are. Each to their own. Cool. Well, that's nice. So the having this logout at least redirect somewhere rather than getting you into sort of an endless login loop. That's quite neat. And then, yes, there's some Flowforge work to decide, okay, where do we actually want that? And in fact, we probably want to change that text. But a lot of it's nice to know a lot of the pieces are there, and this sort of hangs together. Awesome. All right, well, let's actually finish this off, because it is late. Now, you may notice in my changed files, I've still got view and view tools. The can of worms we opened on last week's live stream have not moved on a single iota since the last live stream. They are still sat in my workspace edited, waiting for some resolution, but that will come another day. But let's look at what we've actually modified tonight. First, let's check. Let's create a new branch, auto-login. This won't affect revoking a user access via FlowForge, will it? As in suspending a user? No, so this is only logging you out of an individual Node-RED instance that you have logged into. We have whole other stories around suspending users on the platform, but yeah, no. This is purely around the smooth experience of logging into an individual Node-RED instance. Okay. Of course, the other thing we will need to keep in mind is that smooth experience will only exist if you're running a Node-RED version 3.0 or later. So, yeah, so that's an important point. If you happen to be using FlowForge with Node-RED, an older version of Node-RED, of course it won't auto-login because that older version of Node-RED doesn't know about auto-login. We just need to make sure that FlowForge handles that. So in this file, we've set up the response to the login API. If you set strategy to auto login, we'll pass that through with the login redirect to trigger that auto login. Otherwise, we send the prompts and the strategy icon and image as before. That's good. We'll take those changes. And then in the UI, once we've loaded once we load this and we know it's a strategy-based login and its auto login is set, then we will just automatically redirect you to that URL and do nothing else. So I still think there's a danger here of if that login redirect just sends you back to the Node-RED editor without doing the right thing, you will end up in a login loop. And I've used enough enterprise-grade single sign-on products that integrate with one another to be very familiar with single sign-on login loops that just kill your browser tab because the single sign-on turns into an infinite number of sign-ons as they keep bouncing between each other. But we can only fix the issues in front of us at the moment, and I think this is a good first iteration. And of course, this is a brand new option. It's not like this is going to break for anyone. This is not we're not modifying existing behavior. We're adding a totally new behavior. So, yeah, there may be means of how best to deal with this. But you very quickly get tied into the OAuth authentication. Oh, you know what? That's a thought. Can we? It's a thought, but it's 9:05. This is all golden path, which is goodness. I'm just thinking. I'm thinking there is a path where we do the auth flow and the auth flow fails. And I don't mean fail. Sorry, what am I thinking of? What I'm thinking is, at the moment, there is no failure path in that this Node-RED instance has the right tokens, client ID and secret under the covers that the FlowForge platform expects it to have in order to do this sign-on flow. But there is obviously a bunch of code in there that validates those tokens the user never sees. And there are flows in OAuth where if those tokens aren't good, or if they're rejected, or if they've expired, then the login flow will fail. And you can actually see some hints of that. So in the editor, in the login handling, here you can see all this session message stuff. And what the session messages is the ability to pass OAuth errors back to the user, and these get shown to the user in that login dialog. So in fact, it does almost suggest, the trouble is to provoke it, to test it, to validate this is a bit more fiddly than I'm going to get into at 9:10. But yeah, before I commit this, or before we merge this, I think we need to, before we do this auto redirect, I think what we actually need to do is have a look at, have we been passed any session messages which indicate an error? Just as, yeah, Steve, you suggested maybe a query string flag to prevent the loop. As I talk it through, we have query string which indicates there has been an error. All of this. So, yeah. So what am I getting? So in fact, I think we can... If we grab that and do this up front first, there was no need for that to be inside this for loop, because, again, it's a bit of a degenerate case. We know prompts is length 1, so so we can actually check for any session messages. Then if red.session messages.length is 0 and auto-login, then do the redirect. So that means if we've come back because of a failure on OAuth and some messages have been passed back to show the user, then we'll be able to show them those messages and still show them the sign-in button to let them try again. Oh, that, yeah, I think that hangs together, but I will want to test that before merging. But like I said, I need to, the error scenarios...
I don't have an answer for that.
The error scenarios for OAuth flows are a little tricky to provoke. Well, not trick, they're very easy to provoke. To provoke the right ones to get the right sorts of errors is a little fiddly. So I'm not going to do that now, but rest assured that will come. But I think this is the only context that we use this session messages object, and this is where we present them to the user. So yeah, I think this is pretty solid logic. We can test it. You know why? Right, let's do a grunt build just to build those changes. Yes, we can test this because they're passed in on the query string. We can just manually put them on the query string and check the editor behavior. So we logged in, yeah. So if we go to the editor, in fact, we log out. Okay, that's going to be a pain, but we go to the editor. All right, so that's failed. Why has that failed? Cannot read properties of undefined. That's probably here. Yeah. Okay. You know what? Well, yeah, we'll do it this way. This is longhand. There's a beautiful bit, a new bit of JavaScript, and I don't know what the browser support is, but these days you can do that, and it's so nice to write. Basically saying, well, test if session messages.length is equal to 0, but if session messages doesn't exist, don't complain that you're trying to access a non-existent property. Just fail the test, full stop. It's so nice. And in fact, this is what pushed me to VS Code. This syntax, the JavaScript parser in Atom hasn't been updated to support, and I wasted so much time trying to work out how to do it. I relented and moved to change my code editor rather than try and fix. So anyway, we'll be more declarative in more verbose. Noxy Boy, really keen, what we say in the chat, really keen to see the ability to manage Node instances installed on edge devices from FlowForge. I have hundreds of instances running at client premises on site, but would like to manage them centrally. Is there something on the roadmap? Yeah. Short answer, yes. Couldn't say exactly in what form, but being able to remotely manage Node-RED instances is kind of something we want to hit on. Right, do I need to do a restart? Oh, it's still erroring. Why is this still erroring? It's still erroring because in the runtime side we took out, no, it's not a rebuild. I changed the response structure. So I took out the prompts object if we want to auto login, but now we've actually identified a case where we might want the prompts object. So I kind of need to, restore. We want to always add the prompts object because we might need it. But if we have auto login, then we want these extra properties. Right, so this is, I always have to just stop and think, right, I've edited runtime code, so I need to restart Node-RED to pick up these changes. Yay. No. Oh. Okay, so why is that showing me? Why is that showing me that? Oh, right. Yep. My logic is wrong here. I'm saying do the auto redirect if session messages is defined and it has a length of 0. Well, in this code path, session messages is not defined. So I'm going to move that up there so it always is defined. And then move that there so it's, get rid of that because we're guaranteeing it's going to exist up here, and then we know it'll be a 0 length if there are no errors. So just wait for this uglify to run, and then sans build, attach copyright, that's all done. I think just to reload. Okay, so that's logged me straight in, which is what we wanted. I'm going to hit log out. I'm now going to copy link address. And now, rather than go straight there, I'm going to add a query parameter, session message. It says, uh-oh, that failed. And there we have a login box with uh-oh, that failed, with curious. So we need to URL. Yes, we need to URL decode that text before we present it, and we should actually also. Oh, that's a sneaky thought. If we come in here, what happens if I do? Oh, okay. Thankfully, we haven't managed to successfully inject a script into the page. However, we do need to URL decode and sanitize that text as we put it on screen. But this will mean any OAuth errors at least will get present. They will at least get to they won't get into an infinite loop. They'll get to a screen with an error message, and that's better than having nothing. Now, hopefully, when I click sign in now, it should sign me in fine because, well, we haven't got any errors, and that's awesome. Cool. Shall we fix the URL encoding quickly? Yeah, here, session message 1. Okay, we don't need to HTML escape it because we treat it as text. That's good. But we do need to URL decode it, which I'm just going to... what am I going to do? Logout, close. Fire that one up again, bring up the console, grab that text and just say, is it a decode your URI component with that string? Yeah. I'll do it. There we are. Decode URI component in session messages. Session messages just iterates over them and adds a div and sets the text. So good. We can't inject HTML, but at least we will protect against. Well, not protect. I think the typical OAuth errors tend to be codes rather than messages. Should that login window have a title? It looks like it has a title bar, but it's empty. No, as in it's not missing a title. You are right to observe it looks like it has a title bar with no title. There is no title. So that's okay. Let's just do a restart once more with feeling. To reload. And of course, I've reloaded, it's dropped me in, but log out, but at least, well, copy link address, that. Uh-oh, that failed. Uh-oh, that failed. With no escape characters. Awesome. Well, I think that's good enough. From a no-dread perspective, I think that provides a bunch of useful capabilities. It addresses that pull request, and provides a way to break out of loops using the mechanism we would already provide. I think that's right. Let me just actually, having done all that, session message. I think if I come look in the runtime authentication code and I search in there for this session message, yeah. So here you can see handle strategy error. We log the error, and then we will redirect the user back to Node-RED with session message with the error message. So yeah. Where does admin specify the logout redirect URL? So that is in editor theme logout redirect, which, let me check. If we go to node-red.org docs, no, API reference, no, not API reference, user guide, configuration options, editor themes, logout, redirect. So yeah, it was in the docs all along. So interestingly, there's already an option there to turn off the user menu. And in fact, that might be, well, there is that very crude option. You can here's how you can customize the login image. Yeah, and I'm sure, and here's actually a way to customize the menus, which is a bit clunky and fragile. Yeah, but there we are. It's in the docs. I don't often get to say that, but it's in the docs. Right, let's get this commit pushed and a pull request opened, and then go and have a cup of tea. Yeah, so we've done all that. We've done all that. Allow admin auth to auto login users when using passport strategy. I realize I've not used the word passport in this whole stream. Passport is the library we use that provides the OAuth and the single sign-on type stuff. Fixes issue number. Who's paying enough attention to know that issue number off the top of their head? Not me. 3467. Churn. Push the branch. You're opening the application Google Chrome for the first time. I can assure you this is not the first time I have opened Google Chrome. Oh, bless. Well, once have I hit open? Who knows? Right. No, we want this on the dev branch, is what we want. Allow auto login when using blah de blah blah blah. What did I say? Adds an option to admin auth when using a strategy type scheme to automatically redirect the user to the required auth system rather than prompt with a dialog to click a button first. The dialog will still get shown if there are any errors whilst handling the login. And then admin auth type strategy. And then where did we put it? Actually, this is a good point where, because I know I didn't put it in the right place in my first go of asking. Type strategy, yeah. That's the bit we want. Nothing like thoroughness. Yeah. Good. Dev branch, milestones 3. We'll just leave it at that. Cool. Now, has this... No, it hasn't. Okay, what was the issue number? It's not picked it up. Let me just... but yes, it has. But 3467. Add it in here because we like cross-referencing stuff. Awesome. Yeah, well, I think that's job done for the night. It's 9:30. It is definitely time to stop and have a cup of tea. So, yeah, well, thanks for bearing with me. Glad I've figured out the FlowForge part of that, so I can run the dev code in FlowForge. That's going to make still a little hacky way of doing it, but it's going to make certainly my job easier and Steve's job easier in the future as we develop stuff in the context of FlowForge. But yeah, I hope that was interesting. Lots still to come on the FlowForge front, but I'll stop talking about that. On the Node-RED front, 3.0, notional plan is to have the beta out in about 3 weeks' time. That's roughly, a realistic timescale, given I am on holiday next week. So there will be no live stream next Monday, and in fact, there will be no live streams for the next 2 weeks because it is Easter Monday, a bank holiday, at the very least in the UK. I never know how well that one translates around the world, but there we are. So there will be no live streams for 2 weeks. By the time we next meet, there could well already be a beta of 3.0 out and about. So have a good couple of weeks off. Always shout and Slack if there's anything you wanted to chat about and bring up on the Node-RED front. Otherwise, have a good break, and I will see you next time. And with that, I fumble for the end button and I say good night.